You don't belong here. This legacy isn't yours to carry." Those were the exact words my uncle said to me, in front of the entire family. At my grandfather's memorial, my chest tightened as every pair of eyes shifted away from me and toward my sister, the so-called golden child. I wanted to scream, to remind them that I had sacrificed just as much, that I had stood by my grandfather during his last days while my sister was off chasing her ambitions. But in that moment, all I felt was invisible, erased from the very bloodline I was born into. The worst part? My sister didn't even speak up for me. She simply stood there, chin high, basking in their approval, as if my humiliation was just another reminder that she had won. It was supposed to be a day to honor my grandfather, a man who believed in fairness and hard work. Instead, it turned into the day my family decided I wasn't worthy of the very name I carried. That's when I realized something. If they couldn't see my worth, I'd make sure they felt the weight of underestimating me. Hey everyone, welcome back to Revenge Flame, the channel where stories of betrayal, justice, and shocking family secrets come alive. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found us. This is the place where we dive into real-life inspired stories that remind us just how complicated relationships, loyalty, and revenge can get. Every week we share tales that keep you hooked, from start to finish, whether it's a family turning their back on one of their own, a friend's ultimate betrayal, or someone fighting back when everyone counted them out. If you enjoy stories that stir your emotions and make you think about what you'd do in the same situation, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. And if you've been here before, thank you for being part of this growing community, where your support keeps these stories alive. Today's story is about a family legacy, favoritism, and what happens when one sibling is crowned the golden child, while the other is left in the shadows. Let's get into it. I grew up in a family where reputation meant everything. My parents always spoke about the family legacy as if it was some sacred treasure that only the worthy could inherit. From the very beginning, it was clear who they believed that worthy person was my sister. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Straight A's, trophies, scholarships, you name it, she had it. And every achievement of hers was celebrated with parties, speeches, and endless praise. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one, the one who worked hard but never seemed to shine enough for them to notice. It wasn't that I was a failure. I had my own accomplishments, good grades, dedication, and later, a stable career. But to my family, those things were expected, not praiseworthy. If my sister scored 95%, she was a genius. If I scored the same, I was told I should have aimed higher. My grandfather was the only one who truly saw me. He used to say, legacies aren't about favoritism, they're about character. He believed I had the strength and heart to carry the family forward. But after he passed, his words seemed to vanish with him. At every gathering, my sister stood front and center, while I was pushed to the side. She became the face of the family, while I was treated like a shadow. The final blow came when my uncle openly declared that I wasn't part of the legacy. That single moment made me realize just how deeply favoritism had poisoned everything, and it lit a fire in me that I couldn't ignore. After my grandfather's passing, the tension in my family grew heavier, like a storm waiting to break. It wasn't just grief we were all watching, to see who would be chosen to carry the torch. My parents, aunts, and uncles acted as if the family name was some royal crown, and everyone knew they wanted my sister to wear it. At family dinners, conversations always circled back to her achievements. If she got a promotion, the table would erupt in applause. If I brought up something I had accomplished, the reaction was lukewarm at best. Polite nods, quick subject changes. I stopped mentioning my wins altogether because it felt pointless. The divide grew sharper when decisions about family property and business came up. I wanted to be involved, to contribute ideas, but I was shut down before I could even finish a sentence. My uncle once said, almost laughing, "Let the smart one talk. We don't need extra noise." And just like that, I was silenced. The hardest part wasn't their words, it was my sister's silence. She never defended me, never said, "He matters too." Instead, she soaked up the praise, letting them build her up while I was chipped away piece by piece. Every dismissal, every insult added weight to a fire growing inside me. I wasn't just being excluded, I was being erased. And the more they pushed me out, the more I realized I couldn't just sit quietly anymore. Something had to change. The breaking point came during the reading of my grandfather's will. I had gone into that room nervous but hopeful. He had always told me that hard work mattered more than favoritism. I believed no. I knew he would make sure both of us were recognized. But when the lawyer began, my world shattered piece by piece. Almost everything our grandfather's house, the family business shares, even heirlooms I had memories with was left to my sister. My name was barely mentioned, as if I had been nothing more than a distant cousin instead of his grandchild who sat by his bedside in his final days. At first I thought it was some kind of mistake. My hands shook as I flipped through the papers, looking for my name, desperate for proof that I hadn't been completely erased. But it was there, in black and white. She was the heir, and I was forgotten. When the announcement ended, the room erupted in congratulations for her. My parents hugged her, my uncle slapped her back proudly, and not one person looked at me. It was as though I had become invisible in that very moment. The betrayal cut deeper because I knew the truth. My grandfather would never have willingly cast me aside, which meant someone had influenced this, twisted his intentions. And deep down, I knew exactly who. I sat there numb at first, until the numbness gave way to a burning anger I couldn't contain. My sister smiled at me across the table, the kind of smile that wasn't kind at all. It was triumphant. She had won, and she wanted me to know it. That was the day something inside me snapped. The hurt turned to rage, and rage turned to resolve. If they thought they could erase me from the legacy, they had just created their biggest mistake. In the days after the will reading, I locked myself in my apartment, replaying every moment in my head. The humiliation, the fake smiles, the way my sister smirked, as if she had secured her throne forever. I knew my grandfather loved us both, so why had his final words painted me out of the picture? That question gnawed at me until I started digging. I went back to his office, a place I used to help him organize. There, tucked away in his old desk drawers, I found journals, letters, and most importantly, a draft of his will. A draft that was very different from the one read to us. In this version, everything was balanced. The house was meant to be shared, the business divided equally. Even his prized watch, the one I had polished for him every week, was written under my name. My chest tightened as I realized the truth. Someone had interfered. And given who benefited the most, the suspect wasn't hard to name. I gathered copies of everything letters with my grandfather's handwriting. The draft with dates proving it was written after the one they presented. With every piece of evidence, my anger sharpened into a weapon. The opportunity came at the next family gathering, where my sister was being praised again for carrying the legacy. I let her soak in the attention before I stood up, heart pounding but voice steady. I think Grandpa would have wanted us to remember all his words. Not just the ones someone tampered with, I said. Then, in front of everyone, I laid out the draft, his notes, and letters addressed to me. The room fell silent. My uncle's face drained of color. My sister's confident smile cracked. One by one, relatives leaned in to read, whispers filling the air. "Are you saying the will was changed?" my aunt asked. "I'm saying the legacy Grandpa left us wasn't about favoritism. It was stolen, and I have the proof." For the first time, eyes that once ignored me were fixed on me. My sister's crown was slipping, and I was the one pulling it off piece by piece. The room erupted into chaos after I revealed the truth. My uncle immediately tried to shout me down, insisting the draft was irrelevant and that the will we heard was the only one that mattered. But his voice shook and everyone could see it. My parents looked torn, confusion and shame written across their faces. My sister, on the other hand, didn't even try to hide her anger. She slammed her glass on the table and stormed out, muttering that I had ruined everything. For the first time in my life, her golden image cracked wide open in front of the family. What happened next wasn't instant, but it was powerful. Relatives began questioning how the official will had been finalized, and whispers about my uncle's involvement spread quickly. Legal action was mentioned, and suddenly the untouchable alliance between my sister and my uncle didn't feel so invincible anymore. For me, the biggest shift wasn't in property or money, it was in respect. People who had ignored me before now approached me, asking for my side of the story. Some even apologized for dismissing me. Walking out of that gathering, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Control. They could no longer erase me, no matter how hard they tried. The legacy wasn't stolen anymore, it was reclaimed. And the best part, the so-called golden child learned that even shadows can strike back. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if exposing everything so publicly was the right move. Maybe I could have handled it quietly. Maybe I could have spared the family the embarrassment. But then I remind myself silence was exactly what they were counting on. For years, I played the role of the overlooked one, the shadow behind the golden child. And if I hadn't spoken up that day, I would still be in that shadow. The truth is, family legacies aren't built on favoritism or manipulation. They're built on integrity, love, and fairness. My grandfather understood that, and I owed it to him and to myself to protect what he stood for. This experience taught me something powerful. Sometimes the only way to be seen is to demand your place, even if it shakes the ground under everyone else's feet. So if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever been treated as less while someone else got all the praise, remember this. Your worth isn't decided by others. It's decided by the choices you make to stand up for yourself. Because even the quietest voice can change everything when it finally refuses to stay quiet, and that's how I turned the tables on a family who thought they could erase me. What about you? What would you have done in my place? Would you have stayed silent to keep the peace, or stood your ground the way I did? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more stories like this. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you'll never miss the next tale of revenge, justice, and shocking family twists. Also, if you know someone who loves these kinds of stories, go ahead and share this video with them. It might just spark an interesting conversation. Thank you for spending your time with me today on Revenge Flame. Every view, every comment, every subscriber helps build this community of people who know that sometimes standing up for yourself is the ultimate revenge. Until next time, stay strong, stay bold, and I'll see you in the next story.